Stepson yelled at my mother to stop calling him grandson and laughed. So I stopped being his invisible sponsor. I withdrew the tuition deposits, froze the cards I'd paid, and sent him the bank notices. Room got very, very quiet. Hello everyone, welcome to Reddit Visuals. Today's story is one that'll make you question where the line is between being generous and being taken advantage of. My name is Marcus, and my stepson crossed a line that changed everything. If you've ever wondered whether standing up for yourself makes you the villain or the hero, stick around because this one's going to make you think. I had been married to my wife Sarah for 17 years. When they got together, her son Jackson was only 2 years old. The biological father was never in the picture, completely absent. So I stepped up. I didn't just become a stepdad on paper. I became his dad. I was there for the scraped knees, the first day of school photos, the bedtime stories, the homework battles, all of it. And my mother, Jackson's grandmother, she was right there too. She babysat when Marcus and Sarah worked late. She taught Jackson how to fish. She sat through every soccer game in the rain, cheering louder than anyone else. For 17 years, this family operated like any other family. Jackson had everything he needed, and honestly more than he needed. I paid for braces when Jackson was 12. Paid for summer camps every year. When Jackson turned 16, I bought him his first car, nothing fancy, but reliable. When college applications came around, I didn't hesitate, wired the enrollment deposit, paid the first semester's housing fees, and even co-signed on a credit card so Jackson could start building credit. Did all of this because that's what fathers do, that's what family does. I never asked for gratitude, never held it over Jackson's head. I just did it because I loved the kid like his my own blood. But here's the thing about raising someone who's had everything handed to them. Sometimes they forget that support isn't automatic. Sometimes they start to think they're entitled to it, and sometimes they'll say something so disrespectful, so casually cruel, that it flips a switch you didn't even know you had. It was a regular Thursday night. Nothing special. We were all sitting around the kitchen table eating pizza, the kind of low-key family dinner that happens 1,000 times. Jackson was 19 now, home from his first semester of college for the weekend. He was on his phone, barely paying attention to anyone, scrolling through videos with his girlfriend who was visiting Marcus's mother, who'd spent countless hours raising this kid alongside them, reached over and ruffled Jackson's hair the way she'd been doing since he was little. It was affectionate, warm, the kind of gesture that grandmothers do without thinking. She smiled at him and said softly, "Come on, Jackson, my little grandson, put the phone away and talk to us." What happened next? Replays in my head over and over. Jackson looked up from his phone, and instead of smiling or laughing it off, he smirked. It was a cold smirk, the kind that makes your stomach drop. And then he said, loud and clear so everyone could hear, "Don't call me that. I'm not your grandson. I'm not your family. Stop being weird, Grandma." And then he laughed. Not a nervous laugh, not an awkward laugh. A real, genuine laugh, like he'd just delivered the punchline to a joke. The room froze. My mother's hand stopped midair. Her face went pale, and she pulled her hand back slowly like she'd just been burned. She looked at me with eyes that were filling with tears. She was desperately trying to hold back. Sarah, Jackson's mother, looked uncomfortable but didn't say anything. She just stared at her plate. And me, I felt something crack inside his chest. It wasn't anger at first, it was shock. Disbelief. This was the kid I'd raised, the kid I sacrificed for, the kid who called me dad at his high school graduation. And he just told the woman who helped raise him that she wasn't family. I took a deep breath. I had to be sure I'd heard it right. Putting my pizza down, I said quietly, "Say that again." Jackson, clearly thinking he was in the right, repeated it louder. I said, "Don't call me grandson. It's weird. I'm an adult now. You're not really my grandma anyway." He said it like it was a fact, like he was correcting her on something obvious. I felt my jaw tighten, asked Jackson if he was joking. Jackson shrugged and said, "Nope, I just don't like it." The casual cruelty of it, the entitlement dripping from every word, it hit me like a freight train. His mother excused herself from the table, mumbling something about needing air, and I watched her walk away with her shoulders shaking. That image, my mother walking away in tears because the boy they'd both poured everything into had rejected her, that was the moment I decided something had to change. After dinner, after Jackson went out with his girlfriend like nothing had happened, I sat down with Sarah. I needed to know where she stood. I told her exactly what had happened, how her son had spoken to my mother, how he'd laughed about it. Sarah sighed, and I could see she was uncomfortable, but what she said next made my blood run cold. "He's figuring himself out," she said. "He's got new friends at college, he's trying to be independent. Maybe he just didn't think about how it sounded. Isn't it a bit much to make a big deal out of it?" I stared at my wife, the woman I'd built a life with, and realized she wasn't going to back me up. She wasn't going to stand up for my mother. She was making excuses. That hurt almost as much as what Jackson had said. But it also clarified something for me. If my own wife wasn't going to hold her son accountable, then I would have to. That night, I couldn't sleep. I laid in bed staring at the ceiling, thinking about all the years I'd spent being Jackson's invisible safety net. Every bill paid, every crisis solved, every opportunity handed over without question. And what had it taught Jackson? That he could take and never have to give back. Not even basic respect. Not even common decency to the woman who'd been there since he was in diapers. I realized I made a mistake. I have been so focused on providing that I'd forgotten to teach accountability. The next morning, I made a decision. I wasn't going to yell. I wasn't going to lecture. I was going to do something that would make Jackson understand, in the clearest possible way, that disrespect has consequences. I started with the college enrollment deposit. I called the bursar's office and explained that, due to a change in family circumstances, I needed to request a refund of the deposit I'd wired from his account. They told me it was non-refundable, but I could withdraw Jackson's enrollment entirely and forfeit it. I didn't withdraw the enrollment, but I did send a formal letter putting the next tuition payment on hold, pending a family meeting to discuss continued financial support. It was bureaucratic, cold, and official. Exactly what he wanted. Next, I called the bank. That credit card I'd co-signed for Jackson? He contacted the credit card company and explained he wanted to be removed as a co-signer. They told him the only way to do that was to close the account entirely or have Jackson refinance it in his own name, so chose the latter and informed them I'd no longer be making payments on Jackson's behalf. The card wouldn't work until Jackson called the bank himself and set up his own payment plan, which, with his part-time bookstore job and non-existent credit history, wasn't going to be easy. Then I went through every other financial thread connecting him to Jackson. The car insurance I had been paying. I called the company and had Jackson's car moved to a separate policy that Jackson would have to pay for himself. The phone plan? Same thing. The gym membership, the streaming services, the little subscriptions that I had been quietly covering for years. All of it cut off. I printed out every single notification, every email confirmation, every account closure notice, every payment hold. I put them all in a folder and left it on the kitchen counter where Jackson would see it when he came home. When Jackson walked in that afternoon, he was in a good mood, laughing about something on his phone. He grabbed a soda from the fridge, and that's when he saw the folder. He opened it, still smiling, probably thinking it was some mail for him. I watched from the doorway as Jackson's face changed. The smile faded. His eyes scanned the pages faster and faster. Then he pulled out his phone and tried to use the card to order something. Declined. He tried another app. Declined. He looked up at me, and for the first time in years, there was genuine fear in his eyes. "What is this?" Jackson asked, holding up the papers. His voice cracked slightly. "Why is everything frozen? Did you do this?" I walked over calmly and sat down at the table. I didn't raise his voice. I didn't need to. "Yes, I did. Sit down. We need to talk." Jackson stood there for a second, looking between me and the papers, then slowly sat down. Sarah walked in right then, coming back from grocery shopping, and immediately sensed the tension. "What's going on?" she asked. I turned to her. "I've put a hold on all the financial support I've been providing for Jackson. The tuition payment, the credit card, the insurance, all of it, until we have a conversation about respect." Sarah's eyes went wide. "Marcus, isn't that extreme? Can't we just talk about this?" "We are talking about it," I said evenly. "Right now." Jackson's face was red now, a mix of embarrassment and anger. "This is insane. You're punishing me for what, a joke? You're literally sabotaging my future because I made a joke? I leaned forward, my voice still calm but with an edge that made Jackson stop talking. It wasn't a joke. You told my mother, the woman who helped raise you, who babysat you, who taught you to fish, who sat in the rain at your soccer games. You told her she's not your family. You laughed at her, in front of everyone. And when I asked if you were joking, you said no. I didn't mean it like that, Jackson started, but I cut him off. Yes, you did. You meant exactly what you said. And here's what I realized, Jackson. For 17 years, I've been making your life easy. I've paid for everything. I've solved every problem. I've been there for every single thing you've ever needed, and I never asked for anything in return. Not gratitude, not acknowledgement, nothing. But respect? That's not negotiable. You don't get to treat the people who love you like garbage and still expect them to fund your life. Sarah tried to interject. Marcus, he's still learning. He's 19. Can't we? No, I said, and the firmness in his voice made even Sarah go quiet. This isn't about age. This is about character. I could have let it slide. I could have told myself he's young. He'll grow out of it. But you know what? Letting it slide is exactly how we got here. I made him comfortable. Too comfortable. And now he thinks he can say whatever he wants without consequences. I pulled out a piece of paper from the folder and slid it across the table. It was a list, handwritten, of every major expense I had covered over the years. The braces, the summer camps, the car, the insurance, the deposits, the credit card payments when Jackson overdrafted. It went on for 2 pages. Jackson stared at it, and Marcus could see his throat working as he swallowed hard. I'm not asking you to pay me back, I said. I'm not keeping score. But I am asking you to recognize what you've been given. And I'm telling you that from now on, if you want my support, you're going to have to earn it. Not with money, with respect, with accountability, with the basic human decency to treat the people who love you like they matter. The room was silent. Sarah was staring at me like she didn't recognize me. Jackson was staring at the list, his hands shaking slightly. Finally, Jackson looked up, and his voice was smaller now, defensive. So what, I have to beg you to unfreeze everything? I have to apologize and then you'll fix it? No, I said. You have to mean it. You have to sit down with my mother, look her in the eye, and tell her you were wrong. Not because I'm making you, not because your cards don't work, because it's the right thing to do. And then we're going to set up some new rules. You're going to show me a budget every month. You're going to apply for jobs. You're going to take responsibility for your own life. I'll still help you, but you're going to meet me halfway. Jackson's face twisted with frustration. This is humiliating. Good, I said, and I meant it. Maybe that'll help you remember this moment the next time you think about disrespecting someone who's been there for you. For the next 2 days, the house was tense. Jackson barely spoke to anyone. He tried to get his friends to help him out, borrowing money for gas, for food, but I had anticipated that I'd quietly reached out to a few of Jackson's friends' parents, people he knew from the neighborhood, and explained the situation. Not in detail, just enough. Jackson's learning some hard lessons about independence right now. If he asks to borrow money, I'd appreciate it if you didn't enable him. He needs to come talk to me. Most of them understood. A couple even said they wished they had the guts to do the same with their own kids. On the 3rd day, Jackson came to me. It was late at night, and I was in my office going over some work. Jackson knocked on the door, and when I looked up, he could see the kid had been crying, not sobbing, but his eyes were red and puffy. Can we talk? Jackson asked, his voice barely above a whisper. I nodded and gestured to the chair across from his desk. Jackson sat down, and for a long moment, he just stared at his hands. Finally, he spoke. I'm sorry. I was wrong. I shouldn't have said what I said to Grandma. I wasn't thinking. I was trying to be cool in front of my girlfriend, and I messed up. I let the silence hang there for a second, then asked, Do you understand why it was wrong? Jackson nodded, tears spilling over now. Yeah. She's been there my whole life. She's always been good to me, and I threw it in her face. I don't know why I did it. I just did. Entitlement, I said quietly. You did it because you've never had to think about what you have. It's always just been there. And when you don't have to work for something, you don't value it. Jackson wiped his eyes with his sleeve, looking young and small in that moment, like the little kid I used to tuck into bed. I want to apologize to her. For real. Can you help me do that? I felt something loosen in his chest. Not forgiveness yet, but the beginning of it. Yeah, I can help you do that, but you have to mean it. And you have to understand that this isn't a one-time thing. Respect isn't a switch you flip on when it's convenient. It's how you treat people every single day. The next morning, I arranged for my mother to come over. Jackson was waiting in the living room, nervous, fidgeting with his hands. When she walked in, she looked tired, older somehow. My heart broke a little seeing her like that. Jackson stood up immediately and walked over to her. He didn't wait for me to prompt him. He just started talking. Grandma, I need to say something. What I said the other night, it was cruel, and it was wrong. You've been nothing but good to me my entire life, and I repaid that by telling you that you're not my family. That was a lie. You are my family. You've always been my family. I was being a jerk, and I'm so sorry. I don't expect you to forgive me right away, but I need you to know that I mean this. I was wrong. My mother stood there, tears streaming down her face, and then she did what grandmothers do. She pulled Jackson into a hug. I forgive you, baby. I forgive you. And Jackson broke down, really broke down, sobbing into her shoulder like he used to do when he was little and scared. That moment, right there, was worth every bit of the discomfort of the last few days. It was real. It was honest. It was the breakthrough I had been hoping for. In the weeks that followed, things slowly started to shift. I didn't immediately unfreeze everything. I and Jackson sat down and created a plan. Jackson got a second part-time job. He started paying for his own gas, his own food when he went out. I reinstated the car insurance but made Jackson contribute $50 a month toward it. The credit card stayed closed, and Jackson had to build his credit from scratch with a secured card in his own name. The tuition payment? I agreed to cover it, but only after Jackson showed him his grades from the semester and a written plan for how he was going to stay on track. It wasn't perfect. There were setbacks, there were arguments, but slowly Jackson started to change. He started saying thank you. He started asking instead of assuming. He started treating my mother with the warmth and respect she'd always deserved. And one night, about 2 months after everything went down, they were all sitting around the same kitchen table where it had started. Jackson reached over and ruffled his grandmother's hair, the same way she used to do to him, and said with a genuine smile, "Love you, Grandma." She smiled back, her eyes crinkling with joy, and said, "Love you too, my grandson." I looked around the table at his family, imperfect and messy and real, and I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Peace. Not because everything was fixed, but because they were finally on the right path. The path where love and respect walked hand in hand. So here's my question for you, and I really want to know what you think. Was Marcus right to do what he did? Was freezing the accounts and cutting off support the right move, or did he go too far? Could he have handled it differently? Drop your thoughts in the comments because I'm genuinely curious where you all stand on this. And if this story made you think, made you feel something, hit that like button and subscribe to Reddit Visuals for more stories that'll make you question everything you thought you knew about family, loyalty, and what it means to do the right thing. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.